Yo, what's cracking? What's popping? What's shaking, everybody? It is another Friday of the Comic Cinematic Universe. We might as well just call it Comic Cinematic Universe Friday. How do you feel about that, Grace?
You know what? I like that. I think that's very fitting.
Yeah. So, as you saw in the title, today's episode is going to be about the Peacekeeper, and we're going to talk briefly about the Moonknight trailer. Yeah. So, real quick before we get into that, I'm going to switch up the screen real quick. Boom. Quick announcement, I have to take off my headphones for this, you know what I'm saying? Check it out. Shirt came in, you know what I'm saying? Listen, I actually ordered a few things. I got a shirt, a sweatshirt, and I got the Team Chill shirt. But also, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The stitching is so clean. I'm actually so happy the way it came out. So, if you all want, you all can just go ahead and go to our merch store. The link is actually on our YouTube, and yeah, check out the merch. We got plenty of it, and I can just tell you, I'm pleasantly pleased with what I got. I know Grace is pleased with what she got, and yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all.
Oh, I think it's awesome. But obviously we're biased guys, but check it out yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, as far as the game plan, let me quickly switch it. Boom. Here, real fast. And today's main topic is the Peacekeeper. We're going to be chatting. Oh,
Maker.
Peace. It's Peacekeeper. Or
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. All right.
Yes.
Well, I, I have the picture up and I didn't even read it. So yes, the Peacemaker.
You
So,
know what? I messed you up from last week because I kept saying Peacekeeper, and
mm,
that's from like Hunger Games. So I
okay.
think I'm responsible for
Okay, all
this.
good. All right, so we're gonna be chatting about episodes 1 through 3. I think episode 4 dropped today, and I actually saw that on HBO Max. I didn't watch it, but I just saw that it was up, so I'm probably gonna catch that this weekend. But as of right now, as a whole, I like it. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that uh they introduced it, talking about, let's just start off with episode 1 before we even get into episode 1. They introduced it as if they were recapping a previous episode, which was
Yes.
a full on movie, but they were just like, last time with the Peacemaker. You know what I'm saying? So I actually kind of like how they clipped it up and gave us a quick recap as far as what you may have seen if you saw the movie, or even if you didn't. The second Suicide Squad, of course, is where they actually introduced the Peacemaker, and I told Grace when we had this podcast that of that movie, I actually liked John Cena. He was pretty funny in that movie, and I mentioned it, yeah, in that episode that he's growing on me, you know. And here in this series, we get more of that, you know. And let's start off with, you know what? I'm gonna get the nitty gritty out of the way, and by the nitty gritty, I'm just gonna straight up talk about the intro. Okay, I watched it all the way through as far as the song and dance,
Oh
and
my God.
and
Yes.
I'm never gonna watch that again. Okay, that is the only bad part about this show. I really just didn't want to see John Cena dancing around. What do you think about that, Grace?
I am so on like the opposite spectrum. I loved the intro. I thought it was so funny. Like this, the whole series opens up with like, I mean, obviously we have like the little introduction. We see John Cena, I think, in the hospital first, and
Mm-hmm.
then it hits us with like the intro scene. And I love that they all broke down into dance to this song. I think the song is called. I don't know who wrote it, but it's a Do You Want to Taste?
Uh huh.
I just think it's funny. I feel like it just matches the humor so much. I like it. I like it a lot. And actually, contrary to like what you said, I was watching the episodes. I watched the first one, loved it, watched it all the way through. And then when the second episode came in, I was watching it with my partner, and he's like, "Oh, we can skip the intro." I'm like, "No, we're not." Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to rewatch it. So I disagree, but overall, like I'm just as blown away by the series so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very similar to you when it comes to John Cena. Like if I saw he was in a movie, it almost made me less likely to want to watch it. And really, Suicide Squad 2 changed that for me
Mm-hmm.
completely. Like, I think his ability in comedy is so good,
Yeah.
like effortlessly good. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
his delivery of things really makes that character shine. And I'm happy that, we're getting more of it in the show.
Yeah. I just want to briefly mention that if it comes down to watching a swole, jacked guy dance, have a dance routine, I'm just gonna say I'd rather just see Terry Crews get his dance on because he's been known to have his silly dances. Even though he looks stupid, that's entertaining. But like
You know, yes, I
in
think
this
it's the
intro,
buffness.
yeah, in this intro, I'm watching just John Cena just like slow motion, almost look robotic, and I'm just like, all right, I don't know if it's the white man or if it's the routine. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
think it's all of that. It's that plus the buffness. I think that one guy, like the janitor at the hospital, kind of
right,
calls out as like, "Yo, you're too buff, man." Like typical superheroes are more
right,
gymnast type build,
right.
and so maybe that's why he's got limited range of motion in that dance
Mm-hmm.
routine. I don't know. I'm all for it. I think it's funny. I love it, but I think it's honestly because he's so bulky and he's doing these moves. I
Right,
think that's what adds to the humor of it.
right. And let's kick it off. Like, say the song aside, the first episode it did pick up where the movie left off. So the movie left off with him being shot and crushed by a building in the movie, and fast forward to episode one, it seemed like the doctor said the only thing he really injured was like his sternum, and I was like, oh,
Clavicle.
oh, clavicle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, a whole building fell on top of him. But that was all that was injured. I don't know. I don't
This
know.
man got shot in the throat.
Right,
Like, I
right.
think that scene is to highlight how ridiculous it is that he's even alive. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it just makes it even much more dramatic to like
Right.
emphasize the ridiculousness of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, the back and forth conversation that he had with the janitor, it already gave us like the feel as far as how the show's gonna go. It's a definite comedy. It's not even gonna be on some serious or as serious as the movie was. And this is to be expected because again, this is written and directed by James Gunn, and James Gunn is the person to have not only fun making movies, but making movies fun to watch, if that makes sense.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
Cool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And just on that note, on that same note, because in this episode with like the janitor, I don't know if you got the same vibes, but I definitely got like I'm Star Lord, man, like vibes when he's
Mm-hmm.
like trying to be like, I'm the peacemaker, and he's like,
Right.
I don't know who that is, like,
Right.
and so I thought that was really funny. And then Guardians of the Galaxy obviously being one of like the things that put James Gunn on like. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he's done so many things, but at least like for people like me, that's what really brought him as like, yes, anything James Gunn, I'm like ready to watch.
But remind me because I've only seen the Suicide Squad once, and uh like when the janitor mentioned, he was like, "Oh, you're the racist one." Did he come off racist in the movie?
I do not think so. I mean, there's nothing in particular that I can say that was like as in the forefront as like this show is like kind of setting up, because in the show obviously it's like his father was
Right.
racist, and then
Right.
it starts off with like that whole comment with the janitor of like, you like target minorities more the
Mm-hmm.
other ones, and then he's like, okay, like I will start to target more white people so that the percentage of my killings are more by them. Is that good for you? And they're like, yeah. But not in the movie that I can think of, and I've seen it a couple times, like nothing comes to mind.
And here it actually established that he well, for one, we don't know what he was in jail for, as far as like in the actual movie, but he is all around looking to be not a bad guy, a good guy. Like I don't think he was
Hmm.
like necessarily like a mercenary, like blood sport or anything like that, but like he was just like let's just call him what it is, a vigilante that got caught. You know what I'm saying? And like in this episode, he's made it kind of clear that he wants to be a good guy. He's just kind of on like having the just the bad part of being a good guy, you know, being caught delivering justice and going to jail, and now having to serve time by serving the government. So, um, right here, I think this episode it also, you know what? They gave me what I wanted here in episode 1, okay? And I'm sure you can guess what that is, but I'm just going to go out and say it. One thing that DC movies, especially like the Suicide Squad, that has been missing is any type of connection to any other type of DC character. And from the jump, we get a conversation about Aquaman, and Aquaman actually messing around with fish. I don't want to say the other word, doing fish. And then I think there uh was there a Batman or Superman reference in there as well?
I'm not sure. You know something? I feel like they mentioned Batman. Yeah, yes, it's the neighbor, right?
Yeah,
His dad's neighbor is like, Batman's a hero, you're not, you
right.
know? And I think also, I think that was really well established with like just the introduction, like how you said, like how they're like, oh, previously, and then it shows this little clips from Suicide Squad 2. I feel like we needed that for something like this because DC is everywhere. It's not like Marvel where it's like, you can kind of connect things or assume they're
Right.
connected. Here it's like, as long as they tell us what's supposed to be connected, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fair game.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't make the clear connections, we can kind of assume it's not unless it's very obvious.
Right.
I feel like this is heavily drawing on those lines that it is connected to obviously Suicide Squad 2 and maybe like other films that we've seen like Justice League, Aquaman, all of that.
Right. And say I think I mentioned it in our last podcast, just talking about DC in general. Like I feel like this is going to be their year to where they actually start to make connections. Like say the Batman aside, now we're actually going to be getting some things to where they're actually building a universe. And I like what they're doing with the Peacekeeper because the Peacekeeper is kind of just like an example of what Marvel is doing as far as giving a superhero show. Now, I like that over just putting them straight into a movie, not really knowing really a background. You're kind of getting a little bit more personal with this character over time, like throughout the week, seeing each episode week to week. So now DC's kind of formulating that formulating that formula of building a show around a character and what is it? Change when you can. Game from COD to Jesse. What's going on? You said change when you can. Game from COD to talk and podcast. I'm a little confused by that, but I don't know. They almost threw me off. But what I'm saying is, um, I don't think that this is the last that DC will decide to make a show around a character. I will actually say I am actually for them continuing to do that just to expand that universe just like how Marvel's doing it.
Yes, and I think with having such successes with the MCU shows that we've seen, I'm loving getting to meet these characters in a much more intimate way. The way we got to explore with like Hawkeye, Loki, Wanda,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like just with these 3 episodes alone, we're already getting that like intimate relationship with like Peacemaker. We're getting to know him and understand much more of like his psychology behind even like the events in Suicide Squad too, because there is a lot of tie into that even as we continue in episode 2 and episode 3.
Sorry, I actually finally understood what he was saying. So I just have to quickly change something on the video because it is what's going on? It's under a different category. I actually have to put it under talk show. So sorry about that, Grace. If you can
Good
continue.
looking out,
Yeah.
Jesse. You're the man.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree, and I think it's something that I love because DC obviously has made shows on like Netflix as well. The Flash, super successful, all of those. But I like how this is retaining that cinematic quality that Marvel's also doing with their things, but they're keeping within the genre of DC. They're not making the mistakes that I think a lot that happened a lot with like the initial Justice League cut, which is they were very evidently trying to be Marvel, but it's like there's so much to love about DC. Like just be DC, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
they are mimicking essentially like the I don't know what you would call it, like the marketing format or like the marketing formula to, letting us see these characters, but still in their own little like niche, So I like that.
Okay. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry. I changed it. Appreciate it, Jesse. Good looking out. But yeah, like as far as just to kind of go back into piggyback off of what she was saying, yes, they're kind of tapping into the TV show market, and uh Disney Plus is kind of like that outlet for Marvel, and now I feel like DC should just do that with HBO Max. And HBO Max, they've been Team DC. Like they have their own like DC tab, and they've had
Mhm.
everything from uh the animated shows and movies to the Doom Patrol and all the other live action shows that they've had. And now they're digging into just continuing to build this universe. Of course, everybody's gonna have their separate shows, and like they're gonna have shows like uh, the CW shows like The Flash and Supergirl and everything like that. But we're gonna get a little bit more mature here, a little bit more adult here, and I feel like that's what they should do because DC in itself, I feel, has always been cinematically darker than Marvel. And what better platform than HBO Max to actually do that? And with this, they can be dark, but at the same time be comedic as well. So as far as episode 1 through 3, it's been exactly that. So I just want to continue with episode 1 because yeah, he had that conversation with the neighbor. I wanted to talk about that real quick because it was a very interesting conversation to the point to where I couldn't get that off with any neighbor in any neighborhood, whether if it's in Virginia, whether if it's in California. If I have an old man come up to me and diss me, you know what? That's fine. I'll be like, okay, I respect your thoughts, your opinions. I'm gonna just go this way. But Peacemaker had a full blown argument cursing the old man out. I was like, oh man. I don't like. It was hilarious. I'm not gonna say it was bad. It was just funny. And just again comes to show what type of show this is gonna be.
And on that note, I think it really shows kind of the contrast between him in Corto Maltese, the Suicide Squad 2,
Mm-hmm.
and him
Mm-hmm.
now. Like, I feel like he's starting to really question his like ideology and his method of like what he does as a vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Suicide Squad 2, he was very like sure of himself and like what he was about. He's like very confidently say like I would kill any man, woman, and children to maintain that peace.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now he's very hesitant. Like when he says that line, I don't know if it's in this episode or in the other two that
Mm-hmm.
follow, like he says it a lot less confident in what he believes in. And, we'll talk about it more as we go down the road. But I feel like that's why he's so bothered because he's not sure of himself. Like he's like, I think really falling into like the I don't well we know he has issues with like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
We know he has issues with like how he views himself. He definitely regrets like what
Mm-hmm.
happened with
Rick Flag.
uh Rick Flag, there you go. And so I think he's like so vulnerable. And so this attack by an old man, right? Like an old like it's kind of like you said, if an old man starts yelling at me, it's kind of like, you know what? I'm just gonna
Right.
make my peace and walk away.
Right.
It's not worth it. Whereas he's like in a full on like, shouting match with this man,
Right.
So yeah.
So with his dad, he's at his dad's house, and um later on we find out in episode 3 that his dad is this quote unquote white dragon, which is super racist person. I don't know if this was an actual uh superhero back in
Mhm.
the day, but it like just as far as his dad in general, the character, uh he is really giving me a lot of the vibe of the show The Boys. Did you ever watch The Boys?
No, it's a show like I need to watch because I know it's so good just based on what people have been saying,
Right.
but I haven't seen it
You
myself.
need you
Yeah.
need to because we're gonna review season 3 when it comes out. So I'm gonna need you to just go
Oh,
ahead
I
and
gotta
catch
catch
up.
up.
Yes. Okay. But his dad is borderline kind of giving me that vibe just because there was a character on there that was like a racist superhero, right? But
Hmm.
before I get ahead of myself, in episode 1, we get this intro of his dad, and yeah, he's coming off to be slightly racist here, but come to find out, he's almost like a super engineer, you know? Like we pull up
Yeah.
into his house, and his house looks super modern, maybe like a one-story house, but like we go into what I think is a closet, and it's, I don't know.
I didn't see that
Right, I
coming.
wasn't expecting to see what we saw, but his dad is the quote unquote engineer of his helmet, and here he showcases that he has so many different types of helmets with different abilities. So the question here is, why didn't Peacemaker get one of those helmets in, let's say, the original Suicide Squad? He just got the basic helmet, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But I knew there was something weird that we saw in the trailer. I kind of asked you about it before,
you
but
did.
we
Hmm.
did get confirmation that now he has like a special helmet,
And
you know, that
enhanced.
that that
Yeah.
has powers, you know. So I thought that was pretty cool to see, even though dad being racist and all. I just like the idea that now there's multiple types of helmets that the Peacemaker has.
And just on the dad, because we're obviously going to see more of
Right.
him in the series. Like that's pretty like evident from what we've seen so far. There was mention of him in Suicide Squad too, much like Bloodsport. It's like it was like, oh, his dad was a former assassin and basically raised his son from like since he was born to become an
Mm.
assassin as well. And in the comics, so just a little breakdown on, I think his name is Augie. I think that's his name, Augie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But in the comics, he was like a Nazi and he worked in the concentration camps in World War II. And so he is not just like, oh, like he's very plainly like
Right.
white supremacist,
Mm-hmm.
racist, all of that. And so that's what we're seeing in the show. And eventually, I think it was like around like Chris's fifth birthday, Peacemaker, he actually killed himself, and that's one of the things that actually led Chris down the path of becoming Peacemaker. So
Mm.
the comics are definitely in tune to what we're seeing. And I'll kind of break that down a little bit more once we talk about White Dragon as we go into episode 2.
I'm sorry. Don't mind me.
You
I'm
must.
just turning. Just plugging the hat, you know what I'm saying? Like I noticed that it was backwards, but I was like, let me actually show it off, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was disrespectful.
So but yeah, like say we get this conversation over a meal, and initially he's kind of recapping what happened with Bloodsport in the movie, but then he breaks down like he got his dad laughing because initially we thought his dad was a hard ass, which he still is, but he actually got his dad to laugh, and here his dad was just like, "Don't tell me that this is the person that shot you," and
Mhm.
then it's an awkward moment.
I feel like this sets up really what we're seeing so much already, which is just like his need to be validated,
Right.
especially from like, growing up with like the type of dad that he grew up with.
Yeah.
And he's just like a little kid trying to get like validation from his father. So it's like so sad after like that laughter weans away and he's like, don't tell me this is a man who did this to
Yeah.
you. I felt so bad. I feel so bad for Peacemaker. Like we're really getting a lot of sympathy for this character.
Definitely, especially episode 1. And I just wanted to say something real quick. Like, say from Jesse, he said Peacemaker has a great casting, in my opinion. Standout is Freddie Stroma as Vigilante. Now, as far
Yes.
as this character is concerned, I kind of watched the episodes 1 through 3 back to back, but is Vigilante the same guy from the restaurant that was happy the Peacemaker's back? Okay, all right. I just wanted to
Yes.
make that
Yes.
clear. I was just like, I wasn't sure because somebody was super excited that he was back, and then I don't know if it was episode 1 where we get all these voicemails on Peacemaker's phone, but obviously I was just like, okay, there's some guy named Vigilante that's super excited that he's back and wants to hang out. But now 2 and 2 makes 4. Now it all makes sense to me. It's all the same person.
Yes, and Vigilante, I love this character so much. I think he's so funny. I love how he's like on this. He's kind of like an executioner. He's like anyone who breaks the law,
Mm-hmm.
like it's death. You steal gum, you die.
Right.
Like he's so merciless and he's just so easily kills people. But he's also like very light, almost like he's very Deadpool-y.
Yeah.
Like he's very similar like in demeanor, and also just because obviously we don't see his face at all, but there's a lot of like characteristic with like the body. Like it's very similar to me. So I do like that character a lot.
Yeah. And say Peacemaker aside, I did want to talk about the team that has quote unquote recruited him here, because we did see this team in Suicide Squad. They did work for Waller. I think the only person that we didn't see in Suicide Squad is the leader. I forgot the name of
Mr. Mern, Clemson, something
yeah, it
like
was a
that.
weird name. I was like, Mern,
Let me Clemson Mern. Yeah, Clemson
Mern.
Mern.
And they have their funny dynamic too. And what's the blonde's name in this?
The blonde's name is Harcourt.
Harcourt.
Her first name is Amelia, but they all kind of go by like their last names. Yes.
We have Harcourt, and we also have, she doesn't go by Waller, but it's established that she's Waller's daughter, right?
Yes, but they don't know it. So she goes by Leota Adebayo. And I'm wondering if that's just like at least the last name is maybe like a made up last
Yeah.
name, just so that they don't know that that's Waller's daughter. But that's the name we were introduced to her by.
Yeah, especially about that character specifically. Um, I don't wanna butcher it, so I'm not gonna say it. We're talking about the same person, but this character, Waller had a conversation with her, and Waller is really talking to her as if she has a special set of skills. But as of right now, all I know as far as her special skill is to blab, just continue to talk nonstop. And they made it clear here in episode 1. It came to the point she's like, I just have the tendency to just keep talking, and I'm just gonna stop talking. I'm gonna stop talking now.
I literally mentioned this to my partner. No, I mentioned this to my partner when we were watching, because like very similarly, we watched these back to back. When this debuted, they released all 3 of like the first episodes at once, and I like paused. I don't know if we were in episode 2 already or finishing up episode 3. I'm like, something. Is it just like the mom thing to like hype up and see these gifts that your child has that maybe aren't there?
Right.
Or are we going to see something soon?
Right.
Because so far, she's like, if it was me in a special operation like type of deal,
Right.
like as much in terms of the skill, which is none.
Yeah, like say
Like,
she
mhm.
comes off as if like uh what, like there is no special skill at all. Like all all she is right now to Waller is eyes and ears, and that's, I feel like,
Mhm.
all we're getting right now. Maybe down the line, in later in the season, we'll see something spectacular. She may be a quote unquote metahuman. We just don't know right now. But as of right now, she is, especially in episode 1, even though she has a wife, I feel like she's somewhat crushing on Peacemaker. Did you kind of get that vibe, or was that just me?
Aren't we all? I'm just kidding. I saw it too.
I
I
roll.
saw it too. Are you? I don't know. I feel like I didn't think so much of it as like, oh, crushing, but more so like he vibes with her, whereas like the rest of the crew are kind of more like standoffish with her. So I think it was more so like they're kind of like sparking a pretty cool friendship,
Okay.
and I think maybe that's kind of what we were
Yeah.
seeing. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. It was just, it was a little weird to read. It was like I get like on some friend vibes, but there was just moments to where it cuts to her, and I don't know. It looked like she was blushing just for a second, but I don't know. I may have been reading it wrong. I don't know.
The scene I feel like I'm thinking of, and I'm wondering if it's the same one. Like it's in episode 1 after they went to the restaurant and she met the eagle, and she goes back into her
Mm-hmm.
car, and we get like a long shot of her just kind of
That's
smiling and
exactly what I'm
smirking to
talking about. Yeah.
herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So who knows? Love is a spectrum, man. There's no like,
Oh,
who
oh,
knows?
I'm
Who
I'm not I'm
knows?
not hating. I'm not hating. I was just wondering if it was just me catching those vibes.
Could be, could be. I mean, too early to tell. We still got, I think, like 5 episodes to go. Like maybe, as we continue, we can kind of more solidly like identify with what it is. But for sure, it's like they have a cool friendship, and I think Peacemaker like likes it too, because same thing. The rest of the crew's kind of like, you're an a-hole. Like, why are you in cosplay? And she's just like, let me meet your eagle, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
The CG eagle. Like initially when I saw
Can we
it,
talk about Eagly?
yeah, I was like, oh my, like I saw it like a picture or maybe even a clip of it in the trailer, but this relationship is out of hand between Eagly and the Peacemaker.
You know something that I love about this though is like I have to like appreciate that they went all out with Eagly and made him an actual character very similar to how he is in like the comics
Yeah,
in comparison to say um uh to what's his name?
yeah.
Falcon, and him having like, you know, what his equivalent is, which is what I think Red
Red
Wing?
Wing. Yeah,
Red
yeah,
Wing?
exactly.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
he's like, like a robot
Right.
bird, you know what I mean? Where it's an adaptation but not true to what we see in the comics.
Hmm.
Like I appreciate going like them going full on and giving him a true like eagle pet sidekick. Like I like that. I thought it was pretty cool. And I mean I'm like on the other side of the coin where I love their friendship. I think it's so funny that like he's like hugging him with his wings and he's
Hmm.
like, Dad, take a
Yep.
picture. I don't want to move. I love that. I love it so much.
So I want to fast forward into because we did, uh, say throughout episode one, we kind of got like a background of his dad, and then the team meets up with him at the restaurant. But then, just to fast forward to the end of the episode, he meets a stranger at the bar. They hook up, but this stranger turns out to be a metahuman. Now, we already know that there's something called like he's on an assignment to called like Project Butterfly. But do you
Mm-hmm.
believe just from what you've seen, let's say in episode 3, that this metahuman is an actual part of Project Butterfly? Because it seemed like she may have been different from the other characters that we're going to be talking about a little later.
I don't know. See, okay, so it seems like there's a species of group of people called butterflies that have kind of inhabited Earth, and I'm assuming she's one of them,
Okay.
and that is what kind of incentivized her to attack Peacemaker after they hooked up because she read the files and realized that her species is kind of being under attack,
Okay,
right?
that makes
So that's
sense.
kind of how
Okay,
I
I
read
got
it.
you. I
That's
got
kind
you.
of how I read it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because for me that kind of went over my head. It's like, yeah, I understood that she saw the file, but I just didn't know if anything, if she was after him from the jump, like if the plan was to meet up with him regardless,
Right.
whether if there was a file or not, to hook up with him and then eventually take him out. Because as of right now, them, as far as the whole team being covert, there's no, I don't think there would be any other way as far as anyone else knowing what their mission is. So this
Mm-hmm.
is just by coincidence that he meets somebody that could possibly be part of Project Butterfly, and then I don't know. It was just a weird coincidence to me.
Yeah, I think it is the case, and I feel like it's supposed to highlight just how many there are. I know we're kind of jumping ahead, but in episode 3, like I think the episode ends with us seeing like this radar like map displaying just how prominent this infestation of butterflies
Mm-hmm.
is. So if anything, it's not that like coincidental
Mm-hmm.
given that there's so many out there. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what that was supposed to kind of like showcase is that there's all like the world is covered with these like butterflies, which begs the question of like how are they gonna, exterminate all of them? Like
Right.
is there like a mother like ship that you can just shoot down and then they all like drop dead or something, you know?
Speaking of just ships in general, so just to be clear, the little device that he saw or that he grabbed, was that an actual ship?
Yeah, so in the beginning of episode 3, he was kind of jokingly like stating like, "Oh yeah, like I think it is a mini ship," and like are these butterflies these tiny little things that like climb into these ships, like very jokingly, and it's meant to sound like
Mm-hmm.
outlandish. But and I think by the end of the episode, and we realize that these are actual like butterfly type creatures that are inhabiting human like bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That yes, that is a small spaceship, and exactly what he said came to be true.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on into episode two. Episode two, this actually tickled me. This whole beginning sequence of him leaving this complex. First off, he pretty much raids like being. Oh, first off, before we even get to episode two, I didn't even talk about the helmet. Sorry about that. Because at the very end with this fight, it ends with him actually activating this now special helmet that ends up taking out this butterfly or whatnot. So
Mhm.
now here, being that the butterfly is taken out, he goes back into her apartments and starts to pretty much steal all of her vinyl and everything like that. I was like, come on, man, get out of there. You know, his team is just like, where you at?
Oh,
What are you doing? And
I'm getting essential
right,
items.
right, you know, and he's over here getting all these quote unquote essential items, which is a whole bunch of nothing, minus the spaceship, which by this point we
Yep.
don't know is a spaceship, but he's grabbing a whole bunch of, like, I think it was like a plastic cat, like a shape of a cat or something like that. Stupid stuff, you know. But what really had me just laughing was the impact of every drop of coming out, like
Oh my
falling out off
god.
of each balcony, you know, like every single one. I was like, shit, like, oh fuck, like, oh damn, you know, like every single one, it was like an impact to where he was hurt on each one. So he's not a quote unquote meta human. He's just a regular human being, and that's super jacked. And if he falls, he's obviously hurt, and that's what they showed here. I was hurt watching him fall.
There's like no athleticism to it, and it's so comical, but for me, I think what gave me that like enhanced feeling of just like cringe with every single drop is that we know he's been released from the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
but even his doctor was like, I'm going to release you along the condition that you continue to go to physical
Right.
therapy, and you need to be mindful of overhead, like heavy movements with your right arm and things like that. And so it's like he's not 100%.
Right.
And so, like, every single blow of this is just like what I'm assuming, irritating injuries that are not 100% healed,
Mm-hmm.
even like, 6 months or 4 months of being in the hospital. That scene was so good.
Right.
And you would think by like the 10th floor or whatever, you're kind of like, okay, it's been overdone. But no, it's like every single hit is just as cringy and just as funny.
Uh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Jesse, because I have an auto response, and it was just basically saying, please refrain from sending long messages. Hey, I'm sorry about that, Jesse. But as far as your questions, it says, are you surprised that John Cena managed to carry his own TV series? Because let's be honest, he wasn't an actor who was taught a top tier, and I think Grace and I, we agreed that, yeah, we're surprised as far as where he's at. And um initially he wasn't the the actor to see for me. And uh right now he's kind of grown on me, you know. It's and we've just kind of decided it's more so the more so comedic roles, and I would say comedic adult roles, because he has like some
Yeah.
comedic kid roles, and I'm just like, okay, I get it's made for kids, but I will never watch that. It's kind of like, again, with The Rock and the movie The Tooth Fairy. That's a movie that I've never seen and I never will see, just because it's not for me, you know. So as far as John Cena, I'm definitely surprised. Grace, would you agree?
Oh, 100%. Like, I think I am so shocked by how much I enjoy his character and how excited I was about this
Yeah.
show. 100%. And I mean, I think now that he's found like the rhythm, the niche, like maybe it's like having James Gunn as a director to kind of guide him through the process. But whatever it is, it's working.
Right.
It's
Right.
working.
I'm totally with it. So, here, oh, even before the drop, we also did get a scene of him meeting up with this couple. And he's kind of like he kind of like went into their apartment as like a last resort. He needed to get in, but he's now turned this couple kind of like against each other. Like he makes this connection with this girl there, and from here it's like, I'm like, all right, y'all. It's funny just because like the boyfriend obviously sees it. Like the boyfriend's like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like, are you trying to hook up with him right in front of me?" You know, I thought
He's
that was
like,
pretty funny.
it's
Yeah.
just nice to finally get some attention for once in a while. Like, it's
Right.
so good because we get this glimpse of this couple's relationship and their struggles, and John Cena's character is just kind of like, I'm just trying to leave.
Right. Just trying to get on out.
Yeah.
Hey Jesse, I just turned that setting off. My bad. You're good. You can type messages as long as you want. I just had to make a quick fix. I'm still learning this streaming thing, and one of the things was, hey, do you want to allow people to type out long messages? But usually messages aren't too long, and it looks like you wrote a paragraph real quick, and that's what sent off that set off that automation. So
It
apologies.
triggered the
Yeah, it
system.
triggered the system. But continue. If you have paragraphs, great. If you want to send separate messages, we'll read it and respond. But fast forwarding back to episode 2, so he makes all these falls. Surprisingly, I don't know if he breaks a bone or whatnot. He should have broken something. But we do get to the point to where he makes it back home, and this is where we get this kind of like emotional like emotional kind of like
Oh, I love
uh
that scene.
what do I want to say here? This is help me out, Grace. Like
I mean, I don't know if it's what you're trying to say, but something I loved about this scene is it's giving us that window very similar to what we got in Loki of seeing the exterior and the facade kind of lifted slightly and seeing like the vulnerable boy inside who just wants to be loved and accepted,
right,
but is like, everyone hates me. Like Rick Flag was right. And I love that scene so much. And then he gets interrupted by
right.
Vigilante and he's just like,
I'm working
what did
my
you say?
face
Like something about his,
muscles. Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's like that's why your face is so skinny because you don't do these exercises like me. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just looks like I'm crying, but I'm not.
Right. But yeah, we yo a breakdown. That's the word I want to say. This emotional breakdown,
Yeah.
and uh yeah. Initially, we get like the super confident Peacemaker in the movie, but this is to the point to where after episode 1, we already understand that his dad thinks he's a joke, and also in episode 1, we believe I think his team thinks he's a joke. The only person that doesn't think he's a joke is the friend that I don't want to butcher her name, but
Amanda Waller's daughter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Waller's daughter. But then here we get enter Vigilante, right? And Vigilante, he makes it clear that he won't take off his mask. He's he kills people for the same reason as Peacemaker. He's like, you're not a bad guy, we more so, it's like we're not out here killing everybody, we're only killing bad guys. So he's kind of justifying who and what the Peacemaker is, and it's kind of letting him know that he understands that he's fighting for good, and he is a crime fighter. But to me, Vigilante is one of those, just like, I get it, he's trying to back the Peacemaker up, but like, if like, let's say Peacemaker's having a meeting with his team and then you see Vigilante hiding behind a dumpster, it's like, come on fam, like we see
Do
you. Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, do better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And then we get the idea that he's been like menacing like the city for a while
Mm-hmm.
because he's been like, killing. I think the cops that were introduced to in episode 2 in this episode mentioned him as well, like, oh, we got to deal with, Vigilante and this as well. And then I think the Project Butterfly team like is like, is that Vigilante? Like, I think like people are aware of his like nuisance in society and like that he's very much like labeled a criminal, whereas he's like, I'm doing this for like the,
Mm-hmm.
for good. But I love that he made a comment of like, we only kill bad guys unless we make the occasional mistake of like killing someone who apparently didn't do a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we also get the idea that he's also, it's like sadistic. Like he enjoys killing and
Mm-hmm.
he enjoys inflicting pain on others. Like I
Right.
think when he's having that heart to heart with Peacemaker, he's like, do you think I enjoy killing these people, these men and
All
children? And
right.
he's like, no. He's like, yeah, I
Yeah. Right.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
And you actually mentioned something that literally went over my head, because Honestly, when it comes down to the word vigilante, right? And uh, when the cops said they had to deal with this vigilante character, I have no idea why my mind went to Batman. You know, I'm just thinking the cops are just like, oh, we got to deal with this vigilante Batman. But now you cleared it up for me. They're actually talking about the quote unquote vigilante. Okay, I was lost in the
I
sauces
mean,
for a
I get
second.
it's confusing. Like, let's be honest, like he wasn't too creative when creating his like alias.
Right,
Like
right.
he didn't go too far. But just a little background on the character because I think we all agree like I'm really loving him. Like he's adding so much more comedy to the show, which already with Peacemaker is like funny enough. In the comics, there are actually a couple of people who take on the alias as vigilante. So one of them was like Greg Sanders, but also there's a character named Adrian Chase, which is the one that we meet in this show, who's also known to have taken on like the mantle of vigilante, and it's actually pretty aligned with what we're seeing, which is someone who's pretty much become like a ruthless executioner to anyone who like breaks the law. But in the comics, he's very much inspired, I believe, by like, the death of his I don't know if it's his entire
Mm-hmm.
family, and so that's kind of like the backbone to why he does what he does. And when you look at the comics, I wish I sent a picture. I'll post it on my Instagram for you guys if you want to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
The costume you see him in the comics actually looks pretty similar to what we see in the show. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And just to talk about his character real briefly, as far as what I've seen on screen, this this guy, kind of going back to episode one, had a weird celebration as far as the Peacemaker coming back, and his celebration. I felt pretty much the same way his coworker felt when the coworker came outside and saw this dance, because from this I'm looking and I was just like, this is weird. I don't know if he's totally like, if this random person is totally like into Peacemaker or whatnot, but then like he makes up a story. He's like, oh, great, yeah, you know, my girlfriend's pregnant, and he's like, you have a girlfriend? Yeah, but you know she's getting an abortion. I was like, you're just making this. You're making this more awkward than what it is, my guy. You know what I'm saying?
But then he invites him.
Right,
He's
right.
like, "Do you want to come?"
It's like,
I'm
no,
dying. I'm
no,
sorry.
bruh, nah, I don't want to go to your girl's abortion, you know?
Like that's not. And I think it's in that same scene or right before we see him go out and like have the celebration that Peacemaker is back.
Yeah.
Like Peacemaker explains to the team at the table, like, oh yeah, that's my friend's younger
Right.
brother. Like he's not like mentally okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of like adds to everything. But I mean now, like, I mean, I don't know if it makes it better or worse, like his reaction to seeing Peacemaker back, but the fact that Peacemaker had like so many different missed calls and voicemails and messages from
Yeah.
Vigilante, and you know, so it kind of adds up as to why he's excited, right? Like the guy that he's been sending like all these messages to is finally here to kind of join him on his like
Mm-hmm.
mission, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. And then kind of refresh my memory. I'm trying to continue with episode two. Actually, if you could continue with episode two for me.
Yes. So after the events at the like apartment complex and they kind of like reconvene,
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is where, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have that like kind of confrontation when they're starting to realize, okay, there's maybe someone within the team who's maybe not with the team. Is that correct? Like they were having this moment of like kind of pointing
Yeah.
fingers as to
Yeah.
who might be, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and something I don't think we kind of brought up is also that, and we're kind of piecing it together as we go, is that Amanda Waller's daughter is starting to see these things and hear like these mentions of her mom that she does what seems like she didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think she's just learning how ruthless her mother
Yeah.
is, because there's comments obviously that they make about like, you know, her like threatening the lives of like, you know, children, which I think was a reference to her threatening Bloodsport's daughter in Suicide Squad
Right.
2. And so it's something that I'm curious if I'm curious if like her skill set is more so the fact that she doesn't see her mom for like the evil person that she is, and so there's a loyalty that she can't find anywhere else, right?
Right.
But it's an interesting dynamic that they're kind of like starting to weave it. I think it's funny when they're like trying to be like, okay, well, it can't be you because of this, it can't be you because of this, and
Mm-hmm.
then when Peacemaker's like, well, what if it's what's his name, Economist, Economist, I think that's his like last name. They all have weird ass names,
Right.
man. Like I don't know why
The
it
the
can't, it
bearded
can't be
guy,
super
right?
simple. The bearded guy,
Right.
yeah. What did Peacemaker call him? Is
I
like
just I know.
dye
Yeah,
beard,
dye
dye
beard.
beard.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, where he's like, I think it might be you, man. Like, just a pretty lady, you want to impress her. You start telling them about like Project Butterfly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So I'm actually kind of looking back into some notes of episode 2. Sorry, give me 1 second. Especially from the title, right? The title was Best Friends for Never. Um, right then and there, I don't know why I thought something was gonna happen to Eagly, so I was actually kind of getting my mind wrapped around it because when I saw it, I was like, oh
Mhm.
shit, we just got introduced to this bird, this American bald eagle, and it's already gonna be taken out, you know. So that's kind of where I thought this was gonna go, but I think we pretty much covered all of episode 2 up to the point to where the team gave Waller's daughter an assignment to bribe the couple that we talked about before, and
Mhm.
with like an all expense paid trip to somewhere to pretty
Yes.
much point out his dad as the person who made that explosion at the apartment and killed whoever, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think that's a big part of the of episode two. We kind of like glazed over is the fact that they have to now blame someone else for what Peacemaker made,
right,
and Diebeard blames it on Peacemaker's dad, which is very stupid because it's only kind of like moving the in terms of like, oh, who like the two CIA or FBI agents are kind of looking at. It
right.
just moves it like one step over, but way too close to comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's kind of where we see her bribe the couple. And then I love, I think it was in a post credit scene of this episode where we see the woman, like the wife, she's like, can I keep the picture of
Right.
Peacemaker?
Right.
Yeah.
So, just with that, us mentioning that, that just reminded me that we did get more of the dad being a little racist towards the Asian, whatchamacallit, agent. Or is she a cop? Is she a government official or is she a
I
cop? I
think
think she's
she's
like a
I
detective
want
or
to
something like that.
Yeah, I want to say she's like an agent or detective because there's a very clear distinction between her and her partner versus the other cops, where are kind of made up to seem a little bit more
Yeah.
incompetent. Like one of the women picks up, like, she's like, "What is this? Is this pizza?" And she's like, "You need to put that down. That is a human face." And like the other one,
Right.
like, so I think they're definitely some like CIA or some type of detectives.
Okay.
And I think towards the end we see in episode 2. I think this is where we see the dad in prison,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
Um,
That's episode
or
3.
is that 3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
no worries because episode 2 ends with him getting put in jail, or not put in jail, but just arrested. But then episode 3, it actually it starts with uh them continuing on to Project Butterfly, and by this point, we still have no definition of what Project Butterfly is, and
Mhm.
um, I feel like especially if I'm brought on, let's say if I'm Peacemaker, right, or whatever, and I'm brought on to do an assignment, I I would assume that you would tell me what the assignment is. Just don't tell me the title of the assignment. What do I gotta do? Especially if you're looking at me to be a trained assassin, who do I gotta take out? What is it I'm taking out? And it's now episode 3, and now we're finally getting a clear definition of what Project Butterfly is, you know? And
Mhm.
say we're getting to the point to where the they start the mission to where they have to take out a senator, and the senator has a quote unquote bodyguard. Now this bodyguard I'm actually impressed with just because he's called the judo master, right? Am I right?
Mhm. Yes.
Right. Now, with me taking a semester of judo, I know judo is pretty much almost kind of like the art of throwing somebody. It's not necessarily hand to hand combat, but it's more so being able to different ways to kind of move somebody's body, like kind of grappling and throwing. And
Yeah.
in watching this judo master, it's not like he's just doing hand to hand. He's actually this little guy is throwing John Cena around, and I don't know. I don't know why I was tickled, but also impressed by it. You know, they actually kept it on some. This is actually judo. So I don't know. Fun fact for y'all.
I think it's funny because he's so tiny,
Right.
and then in comparison to like John Cena, like massive size,
Right.
like I think it adds the comedic effect of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And like before like his interaction with John Cena's character, I thought it was really cool that we saw him so like such hesitation to take down like the family because right like it's clear like this family, not just the senator, like all four of them are butterflies,
Mm-hmm.
and like the senator, I think it's what's his name, what's the weird guy's name, Mr.
Merns.
whatever yeah, there you go.
Merns.
He's like, you need to shoot them, and like he chokes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like this is like such a big shift from what we saw him in Suicide Squad 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I love like the contrast because I think by the end of the film like we're just kind of like, you're an asshole, like you killed like Rick Flag and all these things. And so like here we're seeing a lot of like the internal conflict, but I also love how that's then contrasted by what's his name, Vigilante,
Mm-hmm.
where he's just like, I got this, and then he's like singing and humming a song as he's taking out this entire family
Mm-hmm.
minus the senator.
But that's where this
That
scene.
seems
That's
good.
where this scene. I don't want to say lost me, but yes, this is a completely different quote unquote peacemaker than what we got in the movie here. Now, say initially what we got in the movie. This is somebody that will do whatever it takes for the country, right? And by this point in this episode, I'm this is an alien race, right? And it's not a family of husband, wife, and two children. This is a family of aliens per se, and I would feel as if he would have a different perspective after actually seeing them just let their tongues go into whatever they were eating. You know, it's like, oh,
I thought so too.
this isn't
Yeah.
an actual family. I'm good to go. You know, these aren't humans that I'm taking out. I'm just doing whatever I need to do to make sure the U.S. or the world is safe. And he, like you mentioned it, he chokes. And from here, Vigilante's like, hey, don't worry about it, man. Like, here, let me.
So serene.
Right. And I feel like Peacemaker tried to make this excuse of, oh, I didn't have the bird drawn on the gun, or like,
Mhm.
but this is something deeper to where I can't say he can blame it on the gun. I think it's just something to where um I don't know. Maybe it's him being a little bit more human, but for me, I feel like this is his time to shine because in the previous episode, episode 2, he's out in the woods with Vigilante having fun shooting guns at appliances, which is weird because he didn't want to hang out with Vigilante until he said he has the appliances. So I'm just like, it's what this is like a weird like addiction. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you have appliances? Okay, I'll do whatever, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It was weird.
I feel like it was clear that like it seems like they did hang out before. He's just like, you're not my best friend. Like Eagly's my best friend,
Mhm.
you know? And I wouldn't say that it necessarily took me out when like he is having so much hesitation and he's very different than how we saw him in Suicide Squad 2.
Right.
I feel like he's just had time to reflect on himself, and he's so vulnerable. He's questioning essentially like his entire ideology of what made him so certain in killing anybody, like his, like any man, woman, or children. Like he had such a certainty that he no longer has. And I think part of it is him having had to kill Rick Flag, and I think having a lot of regrets with that.
Mhm.
And also I think that whole situation with him and and Vigilante, where he's just like, hey, we're the same person, and
Mhm.
he's so like evidently like troubled and ruthless with his killings. Like I feel like he really doesn't want to be like him, and on top of it, like him going back and seeing his dad, who is like very much a bigot. He's
Mhm.
very much a racist.
Mhm.
Like he has a lot of like very like severe views on society that I think he's trying to not be like these people, but now he's like, who the hell am I? So I feel like that all adds and leads to that point where he's choking, even though it's like, bro, like these guys have like things coming out of these are not like,
Right.
you know, kids. Like for him, he's seeing the kids, he's seeing the wife, and I feel like he's it just leads to that moment.
Mhm.
So I feel like they eased into that where for me it made sense for him to choke to that extent.
But
But honestly, I was like, I thought that when that happened too, when they started like drinking like the whatever it was, like he'd be like, okay, like I'm out of it, and we'd
right.
see that.
But let me
But
ask you this.
yeah,
Like say with this choke up here, right? Of him being vulnerable and reflecting on what he's done in recent events. Why doesn't that translate over to when Vigilante's getting tortured?
I love that scene. Okay, well, I think well one of them is like I think that's I don't know if there's a clear comparison to that scene and this, right? Because he's not the one like pulling the trigger on Vigilante. I think the scenario is very
Mm.
different. Just kind of looking at that scene where Vigilante's getting tortured, I think the part of it that's so humorous is like Peacemaker's like, "Don't worry, man, I got you." Take off all his limbs. Like to him, he's like, I don't know. Like the psychology with this man is not
Right.
consistent, but I think it's different when he's the one behind the gun because I feel like he doesn't have that certainty in himself anymore that he wielded before that made it easy for him to kill like man, women, children, all of that, you know?
Mhm.
So and also I think it's like I feel like he sees that situation as if like he's the one being maimed and he's like I am brave for allowing this suffering to happen in the name of like holding on to like whatever information they're doing, you
Right.
know. But I think the two situations are very different. Like I don't know if we can like clearly like link them together.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm excited to kind of see more of it because it's interesting to see someone who was so sure of himself like go through this like whole like almost what's the word like trying to find his new identity or his new mantra or like ideology when it comes to what does it mean to defend peace,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So, uh, before I go forward, did this episode have a post-credit scene or no? Because I may have missed it.
I think it did. I think it was very I feel like I remember waiting for it and it happened and I don't think it added anything to the plot. I think it was maybe just like an extra little snippet of some part of the episode, but I can't remember off the top of my
Okay.
head.
Because
Yeah.
from here, just to kind of wrap episode 3, we now get a clear definition of Project Butterfly. It's an actual alien butterfly that I'm just gonna say it's almost like a parasite to a human being. Pretty
Yeah.
much takes over the body or whatnot. So with that being said, I was almost the way the episode was ending. I was almost under the impression that uh, because Mearns and the team were trying to find a way to break in, and he sets off his defective explosion. Uh, but it comes to the point to where he gets up and he heads in, and for some reason I was like, oh, the butterfly is gonna fly into Mearns and then take over Mearns or whatnot, you know? Because all we don't
Yeah.
see the death of the alien butterfly, you know. So
No,
I
I'm like, why is no one shooting it
right, they were
down like
just
the
staring.
entire
Right,
time?
they were just staring
Yeah,
at it. So
yeah.
I was just thinking it was more so looking for another host to take over, and I thought the episode was going to end with at least Mearns being taken over, and then with that him being the head of that team, maybe now the head of that team is under alien control and now will do whatever to kind of lead that team into, I don't know, destruction or something like that.
Yeah. Well, who knows if that's maybe I mean, the butterfly was alive by the end of the episode,
Right.
so who's to say that's not what we see in the next one? And the next episode's already out. I think it came out actually yesterday. I
Okay.
think Thursdays are going to be like the official streaming days for
Okay.
Peacemaker. So that's going to be something we break down next time for you guys. But no, it's for me, I was getting so frustrated. I was like, somebody kill it, because in my head it's like the starfish where it's like you're just staring at it,
Right.
and then it's like just slaps in your face, and now it's like done. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything, you're gone, you
Yeah.
know? And something I wanted to kind of mention, that, hold on, let me get her name real quickly. It's the blonde character,
Hard.
Harcourt.
Mm-hmm.
Harcourt. So Harcourt made a couple of comments of, like, I think departments that she used to work for before working directly underneath Waller, or at least for like you know, for the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them was the DEO, the other one was Argus. And Argus is kind of known as like an organization over on the DC universe. It's a little bit more, I think, like, you know, people are more aware of what that
Okay.
is. But I hadn't heard of like the DEO, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I was like, I'm gonna look it up. And it actually stands for the Department of Extra Normal Operations. And it's a U.S. government agency which investigates and processes metahumans activities and things such as that. And so I feel like we're gonna maybe I don't know if that's maybe just like a little Easter egg they kind of threw in, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it up.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Little they threw it under the radar because the relationship between Harcourt and I just want to call her Hardcore, but Heart is it Harcourt? Like with those
I
T's?
think it's I have it right here. Hold on. It is Harcourt. So it's
Harcourt.
Harcourt. All of these people have very difficult to pronounce last names that they just go by. Like Economist, his first name is John.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we just call him
Right.
John? And then Harcourt's first name is Amelia. So same thing. It's like they make it purposefully difficult for us.
Right. So with
Yeah.
that, I see like maybe she's opening up just a little bit, but as of right now, she's still low key a mystery, but a badass at that. Like so, throughout the whole series so far, episodes 1 through 3, like especially the bar scene in episode 1, I was like, okay, like she can hold her own. Who knows? She may be able to take on Peace Peacemaker if they have to go toe to toe. But I found
Mhm.
that pretty interesting. But I believe that's everything I got for episode 3. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
The last thing I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about was White Dragon, because
Oh, right,
I
right,
kind
right,
of want to
right, right.
say that was episode 2. I feel like it was
You
episode
think?
2, but I can't
Okay.
remember. That's where I have it in my notes, but I could be wrong. But regardless, we get that scene with Peacemaker's dad in
Mm-hmm.
prison, and his presence in prison is like very huge. Like this, group of people are already surrounding him,
Right.
and he just walks in, takes someone else's bench,
Mm-hmm.
and they start like, one hand in the air and bowing to him. It's
Right.
like White Dragon.
Right.
So White Dragon is actually a character in like the DC comics, and he is let's see. He's a legendary supervillain. I'm reading this right off like the DC fandom
Mm.
page. And it's he's traditionally associated with white supremacy, and the name is actually taken directly from like references for the Ku Klux
Oh
Klan.
wow.
There's been several people who've taken on like the mantle. William Heller is kind of like the one that's most notable. So it does seem like Peacemaker's dad is kind of a mesh between this character in the comics along with Peacemaker's dad in the comics, who's also like a bigot and a
Yeah.
racist, and it makes sense that they kind of mesh, they stay together. So I'm assuming this is going to be kind of a big part of the storyline. I feel like it's just starting to build
Oh
up.
yeah, definitely. I
um
don't think that that's the last that we're gonna see of him. Yes, he's in jail, but who knows? I believe now that he has his quote unquote following back in there, especially with that actor being who he is, he's super. I'm gonna say villainous. Like he's always playing a bad guy. Way back to like
yep.
Terminator 2 when he was a T-1000. So at the end of the day, I know he has a bigger role. My only question I feel would be, would it be on some him versus his son, like Peacemaker versus somebody else with Peacemaker's technology? It's just something that I
Yeah.
saw that I was like, okay, I can see that that's the direction that they could go. But as of right now, the direction as far as up to 3 has been kind of primarily focused on Project Butterfly. And yes, I
Mhm.
believe episode 2 ends with them in jail because episode 3 ends with the kind of worldview of Project Butterfly and how many actual hosts there are out in the world.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And then just on that same note, like I feel like I kind of do see maybe like this uh season ending with maybe some confrontation between Peacemaker and his dad. Like I think I don't know, I did see an image and I think it is like the white dragon like suit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a picture that maybe we I missed an Easter egg from the episode where we see him in like his little like dungeon
Mm-hmm.
type place where he's holding all of his weapons and his
Yeah.
helmets, or if maybe if it was something I saw that is coming in episode 4, or that is in episode 4. But I think that's something that we're probably going to see by the end of the season in some way,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, that was episodes 1 through 3 of Peacemaker. Again, apologies for calling it Peacekeeper earlier. He's trying to keep the peace, but either way, he's the Peacemaker. And we're going to shift gears. We're going to briefly go back to Marvel real fast. And we got a trailer this week of Moonknight. Now, initially, when the titles were released months back, I thought Moon Knight was actually going to be a movie, but again, they're going to go TV show route, and I'm already all in just because, as far as TV shows go, they haven't lost me at all. I don't know anything about Moon Knight, so I'm ready. I'm ready to learn and then see how eventually how they're going to insert him into a movie. Whether if it's they're going to
Yes.
give everybody these shows now and then put them all collectively in a movie. I'm in. I'm all in.
You know something, I feel like I knew that this was going to be a series, but then when I saw the trailer, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a movie? Because
Right.
it looks like that.
Right. It looks
Like
like a
it
movie
looks like
trailer. Yeah.
one cohesive,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. And you know, the trailer itself was so good,
Mhm.
and I feel like the song that they put on it, Day and Night,
Mhm.
just like, and the way that they slowed it down and like really made it synergistic with the scenes that we were seeing.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah. Definitely.
whoa,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just saying I just loved it just because I'm kind of like a Cuddy stan, a Kid Cuddy stan, so I was happy that they
Oh, I
brought
know you
yep,
are.
I brought that back. But say from what I've seen, just again because I'm not familiar with this character from the comics, but um, say we just to kind of recap, this person is, would you say, is it narcoleptic that he can't really sleep or anything like that, or
So I
insomniac? That's what he is.
it's more so that his insomnia is driven by his um fear of his dissociative personality disorder, which previously was known as multiple personality
Mm-hmm.
disorder, because he suffers from that. There's like three main personalities that he kind of cycles through. So I believe it's like when he sleeps, I think he then shifts into maybe one of his other personalities and he doesn't remember those events,
Okay.
things like that. So I believe that's where his insomnia kind of is driven from, in that like fear of going to sleep and shifting into a different personality and not knowing what happens.
Gotcha.
So I believe like the base personality, or like the main one that exists, is Mark Spector. And Mark Spector he was a boxer, a Marine, CIA, and then turned
Mm-hmm.
mercenary. In the comics, there's also Stephen Grant, who's a millionaire, and Jake Lockley, that's a cab driver. So there's like a lot of diversity between his personalities,
Gotcha.
and it's a very huge thing that he kind of has to struggle with. And I believe he then gets his powers through like disturbing some type of, it's through like some Egyptian godly
Mm-hmm.
like means that he ends up getting his powers and taking on the mantle of Moonknight, which is what we're gonna explore. It's exciting. Like I'm not familiar with this character in the comics, but just with that trailer, it like really piqued my interest, and I'm excited for this character to come and play. And I do love the actor that's casted for him too.
Right. Should I Oscar Isaac? I almost forgot his name because there's somebody I know that, I don't know. She's just like a huge like fangirl for for Oscar Isaac. But when it comes down to just Moon Knight in general, I think I read something online that Moon Knight is fully aware of who the Eternals are. So, with that being said, if they make some type of connection, I would very much appreciate it because again, I don't have to say it as far as my thoughts on the Eternals, but if this is going into like, let's say if Moon Knight is an anti-hero. Again, I don't really know who he is. He could be anything to me. He may not. He may actually be a hero in the comics, but if he has some type of conflict with the Eternals, that would be awesome. We are going to see. I actually just had a client of mine. He gave me the graphic. Well, not gave me. He let me borrow his graphic novel of the Eternals. So I may check that out this weekend just to
Ah,
actually
okay,
see if
okay.
there's any connection at all. But yeah, as far as Moon Knight is concerned, I again am all in. He looks almost mummified in his costume. Is
Yeah,
that what you would?
that's
That's pretty, yeah,
purposeful.
yeah, accurate as far as him being like a superhero mummy, basically.
I have this little like this is pulled up from the I think it's like the Marvel or like the MCU specific fan page on here. So it's kind of breaking down not just like specifically Moon Knight in relation to the comics, but more attuned to how we're gonna see him in the series
Uh-huh.
itself. And so he becomes the vigilante known as Moon Knight after an alleged meeting with the Egyptian god Khonshu.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why like a lot of like, what we see with his costume is very like mummified. There's a lot of Egyptian like inspiration
Mm-hmm.
with that. And I believe in the this series, one of his personalities works at a museum.
Right.
And I think a lot of the scenes that we kind of see in this trailer is him in some form of an exhibit. And we do see him along with this other character. I know like he has a name and I can't remember, but he has like it's like that beak
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. I think I'm Eternals. There's so many things that we mentioned before that I think could have done better. I feel very hopeful for like the single hero movies and shows that they're going to be bringing out,
Right.
just because you know it's not the challenge of 10 characters you have to introduce from scratch. So I'm
Precisely.
I'm excited about this. I feel like we're going to get as much of a success or a good introduction to this character similar to like
Yeah.
Shang-Chi in terms that like it I hope I have a lot of hopes for this series.
And I may be reaching here, but say in the trailer there was a clip of, I guess, him at work at the museum, and a woman's giving him a hard time, and this woman, she has an English accent. So um, with that, I'm going to assume that he may know of the Eternals just basically possibly off of recent events that happened in the movie, because I believe Cersei worked in England. Is that reaching? Would you say she was in
You know
Europe? You know.
something? I was seeing some posts that were kind of comparing some of the architecture you see in this trailer along with the things you saw in Eternals, because I think some people were connecting that same thing because Cersei does work at a museum, like, and that kind of stuff. But I think they found that it wasn't connected, so they're probably not in the same museum or whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to say that he's not still aware of the Eternals, aware of the events, especially depending on when does this take place.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the big question for
Right.
sure. And something I did see, and I thought this was funny, and I don't know if this is maybe like each citizenship aligns with a different personality, but under citizenship in his profile, it's American, British, and English. And so I'm wondering if like that has anything to do with like his personalities
Mm.
and maybe the shift in personality, like maybe we hear different accents with that personality
Right.
or something to kind of determine like who are we seeing? Are we seeing like Mark? Are we seeing a different part of like of who he is. So it's interesting. So I would say like that's not reaching, but I don't think it's directly like say like the same museum per se.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to to my girlfriend, just because she pointed out that Oscar Isaac is Guatemalan. So shout out to the Hispanic community making their way again into the MCU. You know what I'm saying? Y'all doing it big. At first we had Michael Pena, shout out to him, but now we actually have a bigger role, an actual superhero here. So shout out to the Latinos. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Yep.
The way you say it was almost like almost offensive, but I'll let it
Oh,
pass.
I meant no offense. Apologies if y'all watching
No,
it, y'all
no, no.
caught it.
I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah, my bad. I wasn't. I'm trying to celebrate y'all. So shout out to
No, no,
y'all.
no. It was almost like so accurate. I'm just like, chill. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but honestly, I love the representation. It's one of the things I love. That I think Eternals did so well with is that the diversity in the team, and I love that we're still continuing with different, like not just like in the like Latino community, but with like other communities as well. Like we saw with like Shang-Chi, with what we're gonna see with Miss Marvel and things like that too. Like I'm loving it. And I'm all for it. And I think we're getting much more of it. Um, just because we're still on like Marvel, Black Panther was like, we're back to filming. I think they said that at the end of last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then this week, it's like they've paused
Delayed
filming
again.
and they're breaking my heart.
Yep.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is because this is supposed to be a film where we are introduced to the
Atlantean, right?
superhero, to the Atlanteans, to Namor, and it's supposed to be, aligned with a lot of like Mayan culture and a lot of that kind of thing, which I'm super excited for and super excited to see. So, I was gonna ask, is Yadira the one you were mentioning about the super fan of
No,
Oscar
no. It
Isaac?
was
No,
just
oh okay.
another client, another training client of mine. It's
Oh, okay, 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 okay. I
I'll
thought,
be
yeah.
training with her, and she'll just be like, "Did you see Dune? Oscar Isaac." I was like, "Oh my goodness, he wasn't the only person in that." But talking to her this week, I was like, "Hey, I saw this trailer, and your boy was in." And she's like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Okay, chill. All right, I just want to let you know that he has a show coming out. Relax."
I love that. I love that. No, when you said you got a text, I was like, oh, is she the fan that you were discussing?
Right.
I'm excited for it. And it looks like it's going to be so good. Like this trailer was good.
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. And just before we wrap, I'm just curious because you did have one other topic that you want to talk about. Did you still want to cover that? Of like this
What,
trailer, as far as Moon Knight and another character that.
I mean, I think it's a good thing, not a good thing, but it's something that maybe we should acknowledge. So obviously, I think this is the week that this trailer was
Right.
released,
Right.
correct?
Precisely. It was like
Yes.
maybe a day
And
after.
yes. So obviously this trailer got a lot of hype because it looks absolutely amazing. And then I think a few days later it was announced that one of the actors playing like I think a pretty big role in the series is actually just recently passed
Mm-hmm.
due to, I think it was like some type of a,
It was
it
a
was,
ski
I think
accident.
a hike skiing accident.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And so that's so unfortunate. I'm not familiar with the character that he's playing, but I think the actor's name is Gaspar Ulliel. And it's something that like so tragically happened just in the same week that this trailer was released. And
For
so
some
I
reason,
mean, it's
I
just
think
something.
he's playing the the quote unquote Egyptian creature like that has like a beak and everything.
Is
I
that
think
him?
he may be playing that role.
I know the name. Okay, so the name of the character he's playing is Anton Mogar, and when I was looking up that character, one of his aliases is Midnight Man, and so I think it might
Oh, I
be
may
like
be wrong then.
a villainous
Okay,
role. I
I
mean, it could
gotcha.
be because I'm not too sure of the name of like that character with like the beat that we were kind of talking
Right.
about. It could be that one. But yeah, it's just you know, um, tragic thing that kind of happened same week, so it's we're celebrating obviously the trailer and it's like excitement that it's bringing like the fandom, but it's also really sad to see that this happened like so close to the event as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real bummer, but either way,
Best wishes to the family and everything. Yeah.
I'm still super excited just because, like you mentioned, the trailer looks super bomb. So I'm all in. I'm all in with that. I'm actually all in with the Peacemaker. Not fully all in with DC just yet, but as far as the Peacemaker, we're starting off 2022 right. Okay, so good job, DC, getting your shit together, getting away from the CW, and coming over to HBO Max and giving us something enjoyable to watch.
I think DC is doing good. I've been loving like the recent projects of DC. I feel like they've been getting kind of like their shit together, and I just hope it keeps trending in that direction. I'm really rooting for them. They've got so many projects coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it looks pretty damn close, like the in terms of like quantity of like projects like in compared to
Right.
Marvel, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not looking at the shows. I kind of tallied it up with all of the movies, but it's exciting. It's going to be a really good year overall. DC, Marvel, and we're going to cover it all for you guys.
Let me ask you, because there was something that I read. I actually don't remember what day it was, but this is off topic because we're done talking about our topics here. So as far as this random topic here, I read something from a quote from Ben Affleck, and we all know, or if we don't, this is gonna be his last film in the Flash. But he pretty much, I'm just gonna paraphrase what he said. He pretty much said that it's gonna come to the point to where the only movies being shown in movie theaters are pretty much comic book movies and IP movies. Like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you feel?
You know something? I did see that. I saw like a very snippet of it, and I remember having intentions to look into like the actual like interview that he said that in because I was really curious. But I feel like that was in response to obviously the amount of people going to see the movies in theaters for superhero movies in comparison to other things that have come out. And
Correct.
I don't know which particular movie he was kind of referring to, but there was a movie that came out and just like the box office I guess like what they made at the box office was nowhere close to what you're seeing with like say No Way Home
Right.
and like the superhero movies. And I don't know if it's something that we're shifting into because that's just what we're shifting into, or maybe just the times that we're in, where some people just aren't ready to go to the theaters. Like I know there's a lot of people I've talked about, like, you know, like I went to go see No Way Home, obviously many times
Right.
in the theaters,
Right.
but they're like, you know, I'm gonna wait until it comes into like, you know, at home just because I'm not really comfortable going out. So I feel like it may just be because we're still in pandemic time, and if there's a movie someone wants to see cinematically, it might just be one of those more action based movies versus if I watched a different type of film, I might wait for it to be and watch it like in my home because maybe I don't need like the full cinematic experience of it, if that makes sense.
Well,
But
I
I think it may just be temporary,
gotcha.
and I hope it's just a temporary thing. And I think we're gonna see much more people wanting to see like full movies in the theaters, not just like the superhero ones, you know?
Well, let's say just as far as since movie theaters opened back up since the pandemic, right? A lot of things that, as far as that have hit the box office, has been more so franchises. Like the first thing I remember to come out in, oh, did she hang up? Come on, Grace. Is she
Hello?
back? Hold on. All right, I think she's back now. So, I was just
I'm so
saying.
sorry. Give me 1 second. I accidentally was playing with my AirPods and I think I just like hung up on you. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. But what I was saying was, since theaters opened back up, right? Let's say back in May, we've pretty much gotten a lot of franchise movies, and I think one of the first movies to come out was like the Fast and Furious, right? It was like Fast 9 or something like that, and then Black Widow, and then like other movies that were more so bigger franchises, to where I understand where he's coming from, to where a lot of these kind of um, just regular movies that aren't connected to anything, like these just movies in general, they're being outshined to the point to where, who knows, they may eventually go straight to streaming, just because as far as what's being put into movies theaters and where the money's being made, like I understand that it could get to the point to where it is just franchises. Like we just had, even though it dropped on HBO Max, but again, we just had The Matrix come back out, and then who knows? I think we're gonna get another Fast and Furious, and of course, Marvel's never gonna stop, and DC's never gonna stop. So at the end of the day, I think right now the box office, it may get to the point to where it may just be franchises and movie theaters.
I think along with that, there's just a huge comparison to, when you look at DC, when you look at Marvel, Star Wars, even, and you look
Yeah,
at
precisely.
the
Mm-hmm.
Fast and Furious franchises, like
Mm-hmm.
there's such a huge fan base behind them
Yeah.
that they're gonna go see it in the movie theaters because we're there
Correct.
to feel the full cinematic experience. I know that's the case for me with like any of these films.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in comparison to say just the how huge the fan base is and how passionate the fan base is, like it's likely for them to go and see these movies in theaters, and then compare that to just say a movie that's not part of a franchise or just a different genre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's not that there isn't an interest, but there's more an inclination to go see it that weekend it comes out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the response you get with like No Way Home and Eternals and Black Widow. Like a lot of people want to go that night that it premieres, that weekend it
Right.
premieres. So I feel
Right.
like the comparison is there's a huge comparison to that, or contrast, I
Like
should say.
like I mentioned it to you at let's say initially when we started this podcast, as far as like let's say the MCU, just for instance, and we were talking about how we're going to schedule our shows around these movies. Like when these movies come out, they are events. They're not just movies that people go see. You know, people will buy their tickets a month in advance when those tickets drop just to pack out a movie theater, and it it it's hard to say that other movies that aren't franchises can do that, you know. And um, you'll have like random movies. Let's say, for example, what's the Ryan Reynolds movie where he's like a character in a video game? Is it called Nice Guy? I think it's called Nice Guy.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it surprisingly did well. It was actually a better movie than what I expected. And you'll have those type of movies, but I feel like those type of movies are going to do well based on star power, you know? And it may come to the point to where you may have these movies with lesser known actors and actresses that may not do so well, and who knows, producers may decide to just keep that strictly on streaming, because I feel like streaming may be the wave to actually now break out actors, because who knows, for instance, just let's say Kate Bishop, right, from Hawkeye. I've never seen her before in any other thing. I know she's been in like I checked her IMDb, but for me, this is her breakout role to where now she now may become an actual movie star. Not to say that she's a great actress. I'm just using her as an example, you know. But as far as now her movies going forward, now she's a definite Marvel character who's going to be seen in theaters no matter what. You get what I'm saying?
No, I get that. I get that. It's hard to compete with the franchise. It's hard to compete with these huge fan bases when you look at that and then you look at smaller films or just different genres. I
Right.
think that um, the crowds are different when they come out to see the films. And I think I'm a little hesitant to say that this is the direction that, theater, like, watching movies in theaters is going. I think I'm resistant to saying that just because I think that those other films have such great value and there's such I don't want to say that we're not going to see those movies coming out anymore. You know what I mean? Like
No, no, no,
it's
no, no. And I'm
it
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
hard to
yeah.
it's hard to deny the fact that it's a difficult thing to challenge. Like you can't really compete against those kind of franchises and the crowds that they bring in. You know what I mean? So who knows? And streaming, I mean, when you see like straight to Netflix films or just Netflix films or HBO projects, like they are amazing, like
Mhm.
shows and movies. Like look at
Right.
Euphoria, look
Mhm.
at Tick Tick Boom. Like these are films that are so great.
Mhm.
But then if I ask myself, I'm like, if it came out in theaters, is it something I'm gonna run to go watch that Thursday night it comes out, that Friday first weekend? And I'm kind of not. I don't know if I would.
But see that, and the kind of to go back onto my point, like let's bring it back to Peacemaker, right? Again, John Cena wasn't an actor that I would go to the movies to go see initially. I didn't go see Suicide Squad to see John Cena, but that just happened to be a movie to where he performed well in. And now we're now seeing him on this show on HBO Max to where we're starting to see him more and we're starting to like him more. And it may get to the point to where now if he were to come out with a movie later on that comes out in theaters, this is now something to where we will see him. And of course, he's going to be in the DC universe, but who knows? I'm just kind of blamming on out. I'm just kind of talking here. I'm just throwing out some word vomit. I apologize, y'all, but
No, I feel like it's a discussion I'm happy we're having, because when I saw that statement, like it made me think, and I'm like, you know what, like I don't know, like it's scary to say, because it's like there's something I don't want to say, that the theater experience is going to be exclusive to just like these big franchise films. But I think right now, with what we're seeing, and people just not going out as much at this particular time,
right,
I think that just is the temporary case, but
yeah,
I see what you're saying, where it's like these superhero franchises are also a gateway for a lot of known actors, or even unknown actors, or just people just kind of getting their start in the game,
mm-hmm,
to then have the ability to say go into smaller projects, like, or just other projects that aren't connected to a franchise, but at least brings the fan base to those other projects as well. I feel like that would, like, the one I keep thinking about is like Harry Potter.
mm-hmm,
Like Daniel Radcliffe was in Harry Potter, and like from there, like he's been doing like such a diversity of work, a lot of comedy, but we haven't seen him in, say, like a huge franchise since then, because he's kind of had that freedom
right,
to do so,
right, mm-hmm,
And so I see, and I feel like there's a lot to discuss about it. So I'm not mad at this conversation. I think it's interesting to kind of look at.
yeah. Um, I think that's all I had. I threw out everything that was on my mind as far as what revolved around what Ben Affleck had to say. Say we got a mention from Two Live. This is my brother here, and he was just like the newer younger generation would rather stream than to go to the movies. Now, as much as I would like to agree with that, it's gonna come to the point to where we are in the world as far as what's in as far as this pandemic or whatnot. I'm not going to say that they would prefer to stream. It's just now streaming is a little bit more accessible, but this younger generation would go to see a franchise movie in theaters, no matter what, because when I went to see No Way Home, it was not only people my age, but it was packed with kids to toddlers. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what, the movie theaters, I feel they're always going to be a thing, but the question here for me is more so what is going to be primarily shown in theaters, because
Yeah.
me, as far as where my mind goes, I can make up a story of how the Matrix can continue to live on without Keanu Reeves or whatnot. It's just like these movies have built universes to the point to where they can be endless. It could be uh and this is Hollywood kind of feeding into, I would say, our addictiveness, as far as us needing to see more of a certain universe expanding on the story. But I would say it's good at the same point, as long as they're not churning out a whole bunch of bad movies in the universe, then why not,
Yeah, and to his point, like I don't think streaming is necessarily a threat to like the theater experience, because it's the same fear I think happened like around the time, like I forget when, like it's like when like VCR became a thing. Is that what it is? Like the
Yeah,
big what was
the
the thing
VCR.
before DVD?
Yep, yep, with VHSs. Yep.
VHS,
Mm-hmm.
VHS.
Yep.
Like when that became a thing and people were able to watch movies at home, like I think there was a similar fear that theater is dead, like people aren't coming to the movie theaters.
Right.
And so I feel like that it's easy to feel that same kind of like sensation of like, oh, maybe we're just shifting into this new era where we no longer go to theaters. I don't think that's the case. I think right now it's like, yeah, like these franchises and these, DC, like these comic
Mm-hmm.
book based movies are a little bit like monopolizing the game a bit.
Yeah.
Me as a fan,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to see. I think the pandemic has a huge play on it too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I would just say, no matter how much a movie ticket goes up, how much popcorn is at the movie theaters, people are going to buy it just for that experience, no matter what. It's not the same to watch these movies at home. Like I can say, I watched. I just hate to say it. I watched The Matrix on my TV, and my TV is one of those 4K joints. I'm not trying to put it out there. But it was to the point to where I didn't enjoy The Matrix as much because it was too like crystal clear. It was too HD for me, to where I feel like watching it on the big screen, I had a better experience, just because it looked a little bit more cinematic. So I'd rather have that than to be able to watch that at home, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
No, it does. And I don't know if this is off topic, but I just feel like I want to bring it up, and I've mentioned it before, like just adding to the cinematic experience. I think like the fan base adds to that as well. Like when I went to go see, I saw No Way Home, I think like four times. I think I said five earlier, like 4 times in theaters. And I kept going, like, hold on. I kept going because I wanted to recreate the moment that I watched it the first time, because the crowd was so lit. I felt like I was in a concert, and it added to just the enjoyment of the movie. And I couldn't get that again from the other 3 times I went. And let me tell you, like, I remember, I think it was like the second time I went to go see it, I was expecting it to be just as like lively. Dude, the crowd was dry.
Oh,
and
man.
it just no, like when we left the theater, I was telling my partner, I was like, something, this isn't it. This crowd was not it. Like nothing. Like, like the Spider-Men were coming out and they were just like, and I was trying. I was like the idiot in the back row, like trying really hard to get everyone to get riled up. But the experience, it changes you watching the movie. I didn't enjoy it the 3 times after, because the first time was so like significant watching it opening weekend with your crowd of people yelling and shouting. Like that experience is why I think right now, Marvel and DC and those types of movies are kind of dominating in the theaters. And that's, I think just adding to that whole
you must have just went on like those
theme.
3 other times. I don't know what it was like as far as what your crowd was, but like I went a second time, maybe like a week and a half after I saw it the first time, and I got the same reaction, especially
I'm upset.
If Daredevil came on the screen, crowd just blew up. And like any other thing from the other Peter Parker showing up, it was lit both times. I'm sorry you had 3 other bad, or just not bad experiences, just not as lit experiences as your first time. But I agree, like I will maybe continue to go to the movies just because experience like that makes the movie more fun. It's like nobody's really talking through the movie, but when certain instances pop up and everybody cheers, that just makes the experience that much better.
These are your people.
Right.
This is your like crowd. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on it only, and I won't talk about it much more, I promise. It's just that I'm like thinking back to it. Like usually I'm the person who's like trying not to scream and shout, because it's like most of the time it's just not the vibe of people like who wants to do that. But then in No Way Home, it was right in the beginning. Like, the movie just barely started, and then everyone's screaming and shouting. I'm like, these are my people, and it was just so different. It was so different. But it's an interesting topic to talk about. Like I'm excited you brought it up. I mean, I think we've been ranting on this for like 15 minutes already.
It's fine. Like we wrapped the other 2 topics, and I just kind of wanted to see where your head was at as far as what Ben Affleck had to say. But yeah, I think that is officially everything I do have for you all. And Two Live, he said he said like the theater experience is like, it's more so kind of nostalgic, and I agree, because people will go for that nostalgia. So thank you, Two Live, for tuning in. Thank you, Jesse Pinkman, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody else who will be checking this out a little bit later and who's checking it out live. If you're on here, go ahead and chat with us. Say what's up. And if you're a comic book nerd just like Grace and I, hey, if you agree with anything that we have to say or disagree, throw it in the chat. We'll chat about it. And yeah, this was episode 18 of the Comic Cinematic Universe. And again, I gotta take it off him saying, hold on. Gotta
look at that stitching.
Gear, you know what I'm saying? The gear is out. If you're looking to check it out, go to our YouTube. You'll see the link. And yeah, I got a hoodie. The hoodie looks lit. I'm just surprised at the quality of the prints. The prints came out really well. And then even with this hat, the stitching came out real well too. So y'all click the link. Check out our merch. I'm not telling y'all to buy it, but if you like it, go ahead. Do your thing.
No. Bye, guys. Don't just check it out. Like, don't.
Yeah.
Show your love. Get yourself a hat, a t-shirt. We got stickers for you guys. Any way that you guys want to support our show, we appreciate.
We appreciate it all. So we will check you all out next Friday. And next Friday, we will discuss the topic privately, but I will post it on our Instagram just because I can't really think of it off the top of my head. So we will...
I believe we're breaking down episodes 4 and 5 on next Friday.
Okay, awesome.
Of Peacemaker.
Let's break Peacemaker down, because right now we're in the DC era. We're taking a little break until March when Moonknight comes out. So right now we're Team DC, and we're going to be chatting about Peacemaker. So keep it locked. We'll be chatting about episodes 4 and 5 next Friday. Same time, same network, youtube.com/The Comic Cinematic Universe. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We will catch you all on the next episode. Grace, you have a great weekend.
You too.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
Later.